her long ago. This music's like way too intense for this scene. Like a Final Fantasy final boss music. I don't know since when this has been going on. I don't know either of them well enough to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have some kind of connection with both of them. With the air of a person who wishes for respite, it's all too easy to see it in her as she quietly watches the commotion carry on around her. In a moment before I can think it through, I'm pulling her to the side and waving Zachary over to us.
Becca, this is a real oh, hey, Miss Wright.
Hello, Zachary. I told you to call me Hannah. Did I not?
Yeah, you did.
Oh yeah, because we've already made the decision that we're going to leave with her. We made that decision in Zach's story? No, in Hannah's story. Immediately, this air of familiarity between them catches me off guard. I won't put it past Hannah. Her standing in society compels her to keep appearances, the be nice to everyone sort of thing. While Zachary's growing client base sometimes calls for rubbing elbows with the rich and famous, although from the way it appears, this one seems to go beyond maintaining a facade of work. I wonder how this friendship came to be. I'd ask, but we're starting to attract some curious eyes, most of them probably searching for more gossip, something to add fuel to the fire. Thankfully, there's no need to explain it to Zachary. He's well aware of the situation all too well.
So, this is what you called me for? We gonna get Hannah out of here?
That'd be great.
Soon, he's leading the three of us out of the ballroom. Anyone who dares to speak or approach on our way out is shut down by a sharp glare. In a few steps, we're out, away from the commotion and the suffocating tension. I still don't like this hallway. I don't stay long with them, though. Even if I want to, Ashton's still somewhere in that crowd, and I've got to go back for him at least. No matter how much the idea of that alone sends an unpleasant twinge in my stomach.
Hey, I gotta go back in there. Completely forgot my bag like an airhead, and I'll see if I can tag Ash on the way out. You'll be fine here, right, Hannah?
Not to worry, dearie. I'll just be right here.
Zach will be with you if you need anything.
Besides, it seems Zachary can handle this without another person helping out. In fact, for some reason, I've got this strange impression I might be intruding on something if I elect to remain. Better to entrust this with someone she's comfortable with. And though it might be a little inappropriate considering what transpired, a smile worms its way to my lips as I leave. Good on them, I suppose. Chatter has exploded throughout the whole ballroom once I return. Worried murmurs, clicking of tongues, and the inappropriate gossip filters through the thick tension in the room. Most of them haven't even left the premises, and they're already talking about it. Tomorrow it'll be on the news for sure, in the local broadsheet and tabloid in Luxbourne. No wonder Luke's knee-deep in damage control. With the scandalous woman gone, he has turned his attention to the media covering the event. Though, so far, he isn't faring well in the cleanup department.
Now, people, we all know the drill. I'm sure you're all itching to get a start on those articles.
Good thing Zachary isn't here. I can't imagine a man of his temperament dealing with someone like him.
But if I read one word, see one picture about this come morning, even a single shot of the bloody wine glass the harlot held, you will all lose more than your jobs.
Luke's something goes on for another few minutes, after which he excuses himself out of the area. There's a brief lull, a reluctant pause before the place comes to stir again, but shortly the buzz returns. Dancers have once again taken to the floor and their guests excited to talk begins anew. But I couldn't care less about any of this right now. Simply standing in the middle of it already gives me a headache. When the shock has faded, I just feel bone tired. I've accomplished nothing of what I came here for, and apparently Ashton's disappeared sometime during the commotion. I'm not sure what pisses me off more. That he ignored me the whole evening and might have just left without saying anything, or knowing he obviously has some other motive for being here. Can't he at least trust his own friend for
You
that?
didn't have to hide it from me.
The last straw. No longer in the mood, I grab my bag and head out, more than ready to end this disastrous night as early as possible. As it turns out, the night isn't done with me yet, because no sooner than As the porter closed the door behind me, I find myself standing alone in the foyer with one Luke Wright. No sign of Hannah or Zachary. Just him and the agitated clicks his shoes make as he treads around the empty room. Away from the media's prying eyes and the guests' judging stares, it's easy to glean how much the scandal has shaken him. Not to the point where he has utterly lost his composure, he appears to have mastered himself enough not to. But an ample offering is there for a nervous edge to show in the lines of his shoulders.
What do you know?
Man is not as tough as he makes himself out to be. Sure, I've seen this before, briefly in that 1 second in the hallway at school. It's a strange matter, however, to witness it out in the open. Behind closed doors, this is the real Luke Wright. Though maybe that's because he hasn't noticed my presence yet, busy as he is with his own thinking. If he's aware, I doubt he'll be acting like this. His pride is one thing he'll always wear with him. Even now, when I place a gentle hand on his shoulders and he whirls around to face me. There's a second-long moment of anger flashing across his features before it dissolves into confusion. He tucks it away as quickly as he can, but it does nothing to change the impression I've built of the man in my head.
Daisy, must you be everywhere?
We've only met 3 times, Luke. Quit the dramatics. Besides, shouldn't you be aware of who gets invited to your party?
If I was, there wouldn't be any of that scene tonight. That munter wouldn't even get an inch within this property. I'd ban her off Luxborn if I could.
Troy pawns everything off to their servants and Hannah. Pompous, elitist douche.
Did you just come out here to lecture me about it? Because, Daisy, I can already feel one coming tomorrow. I don't need to hear one from you tonight.
You are a very unpleasant man.
So I've been told. Will that be all? If so, I suggest you go back and join every bloody goss in that room.
Not everything. As unpleasant and frustrating it talking with this man is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt at least. The questions and criticisms aren't lacking, of course. But right this instant, there's only one thing that comes to mind. Is it true?
Is there some truth to it, then?
To his credit, he does appear extremely offended and repulsed by the notion. His mortified expression alone answers the question, but I want to hear it from him, even if he takes nothing short of a derisive tone just to answer that.
Daisy? Oh, Daisy. If you believed every scandal that came along, I'd have 100 children already. Do me a favor and give me a break. I get enough of this false shite from the tabloids.
Because I can't really say to him that you should be with your wife when his wife has just disappeared.
Well, I'm sorry for asking. I just wanted to hear it from you, douche.
And now that you've heard it, does it change anything? Are we going to start seeing miracles now? A solution to poverty? Pigs flying in the sky!
Miracles? The fuck is a miracle? It's a miracle. M.I.
Is some friendly concern such a hard thing to comprehend for you?
He pauses at that. Suddenly, he doesn't know what to do with his hands, and in the end, he simply stuffs them back into his pockets and sulks. I'm not too shocked that it's caught him off guard. There probably aren't many people who tell him that. He's a difficult man to get along with. Zachary probably won't want to be anywhere near him, despite the man having the patience of a saint. Ashton he can tolerate maybe, though I highly doubt he can keep it up with Luke. Dealing with him requires more than patience. It's a huge mystery why I should still bother. When the awkwardness passes, most of it coming from him, he merely glances away.
Maybe. I don't need your stupid friendship.
Good heavens! I really want to ask how Hannah's able to deal with you.
He's interested. I can tell from the frown he shoots my way. He's likely wondering how I've ended up knowing her. I'd humour him any other day, possibly tease him about it and keep him guessing just to annoy him, but if I'm in a good mood. But my own patience is nearing its ends. After Ashton, after the whole fiasco here, now him, he won't even answer my questions properly now. Why should I answer this? Moreover, there are other matters more important than that, his marital problems first and foremost. His attitude follows right after. Concerns aside, I can't help with those. Those are things only he can fix, and it's definitely not by standing around here. So with a slight wave of my hand, I end it there and walk away from him. Although I can't resist the urge to glance back before I leave, if only to have at least have one last look at the man he really is. In the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Looming over his shoulder, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. That doesn't look malicious. It doesn't look malicious towards him. It almost looks as if it's trying to be like, yes, he's mine. He's mine and mine alone. I wonder if all these appearances are against people who have an issue with Luke Wright. Because as I've said, I don't know whether the picture still exists. I might have to pull it up on... God, the music did have to disappear, didn't it? Charlotte Ermengarde. Yeah, this picture here. Window capture. No, not window capture. Display capture. There it is. So, from what we know, these are the two previous inhabitants of the house. I wish this music could stay in the background, but it won't. So as far as we know, these are the two previous inhabitants of the house. And they look suspiciously like Hannah and Luke Wright. We've known that the woman who's hanging on his back right now, has taken the appearance of Charlotte Ermengarde. I'm wondering, right now, if this woman here is Charlotte Ermengarde, although black hair doesn't suit her, or we know that there was a witch once associated with the family. We know that Charlotte once saved the witch. These are facts that we know. We don't know what caused the witch to be burned. We know that she has been burned, but we don't know why. I wonder whether this ghoul woman here once had a affair with... I can't remember what the husband was called. Just Lord Ermengarde. I'll call him Lord Ermengarde. I wonder whether this ghoul woman who I'm associating with the witch once had an affair with Lord Ermengarde. And because Luke strikes such a resemblance to Lord Ermengarde, and I'm kind of hedging on that he's some kind of distant relation of them. I'm thinking that's probably going to be the twist in his character, that he was once an Ermengarde. Or like, the witch had a child with Lord Ermengarde, which was a bastard child which never inherited the Ermengarde name, and then that child then had kids and so on and so forth, and then became the Wright family, which then Luke Wright. And if the ghoul woman, the witch, had an affair with the Lord Ermengarde, who looks a lot like Luke, and could possibly be an illegitimate distant relation of Lord Ermengarde, she's trying to protect him and keep everyone away. So she's been attacking Becca, who's already shown an interest towards Luke. She's actually captured Marianne, because Marianne almost slept with Luke. She's already shown herself numerous times to Hannah, who is Luke's wife. Doesn't explain why she's attacking Isabella, or why she's going... Well, it can explain why she's going after Zach, because Zach's got quite a good tie with Hannah. Maybe thinking if I get him out of the picture, maybe she'll disappear. But this does not look malicious at all. It really doesn't. Yeah, I've literally... And hi. I've just uploaded everything up until this point up on my YouTube. My YouTube name is the exact same name what I've got on here. But I've managed to post it up. It's in hour chunks. I think I've set up a playlist for it. So all the playthroughs on there. Like the first time I stepped inside this place in search of Isabella. He was there too, wasn't he? Was Luke? Yeah, Luke was there. That man, along with his wife and other person, Miss McCullough. And that shadow. No. A woman now. I'm really struggling to think how she ties into this whole story now. See you later, Jamor. No longer a dark blur. Terror rushes through every vein in my body, a crippling sensation gripping every part of me, while she stares at me with a glare filled with nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring into the eyes of a woman I've unknowingly robbed of something precious. I'm going to call it now. She, the ghoul woman, had a intimate relation with Lord Ermengarde. Charlotte found out. Charlotte decided to burn her because of it, but not after she'd already had a child, which Luke is one of the descendants of that child. I'm calling it now. It's probably going to be wrong, but I'm calling it now. Luke is a distant relation of the Ermengarde family only because he was a bastard child of Lord Ermengarde and this witch, and she's now here to try and kill everyone around him to try and protect him. Either that, or she's trying to protect him because he looks like Lord Ermengarde. He might not be a relation, but I'm hedging a bet. The reason why Charlotte burned her was that she was having an affair with her husband. That is the only reason I could ever see anything like, I saved this woman from being burned for being a witch, I took her into my household and cared after her, then I decided to kill her later on by burning her. I try not to say something. A warning. Oh, I try to say something. Before I can gather my wits and a voice come out, someone shuts the door behind me, as if to keep outsiders away from the secret this mansion possesses. But my theory doesn't explain why she turned like that into because of Marianne. Oh, God. There's so many thoughts going through my head right now. The brush of fresh air against my cheeks does little to dampen the chill in my bones. By now, the sensation, the fear and disquiet it leaves whenever I see her is familiar enough for me. Already it has made a home in my nerves. I don't even notice my trembling hands until I cross my arms across my chest. The cold from the tips of my fingers seeps through this thick material on my shirt. Neither of it helps to bring together some semblance of coherent thought in my head. But I know I should.
Someone has to tell that douche.
My theory as well also explains why she was in the car next to Luke right at the one time that Rebecca saw her. The only piece that doesn't fit into this is why the fuck is it attacking Isabella? Isabella's like is she like the red herring of the story? She's set up as the first character used. You think she's going to be the main character. But they're just subverting everything towards her, thinking, oh, it's because of her finding the letter. I wouldn't be surprised if the letter has nothing to do with this game. other than just its title and its initial hook into the story. Not wise. Returning, that is, especially after what happened, but Hannah's still an old friend in Luke. Luke doesn't deserve whatever misfortune that letter might bring. I can't just leave those two in there. Isabella's right, she's real and there's something she wants from everyone who has read it.
Becca, where'd you go off to?
If you're done here, let's go. I'll get you back to the city. My mistake, the second his voice cuts through the crisp air, is that I have allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming, purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. One accusation after another piles up on the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face he keeps as I do so doesn't help to temper my anger either. It only makes me want to slap some sense into him.
Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time since that mess in the hall. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right there and then, I forgot I might have forgiven him if he'd shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, given me a sign that my assumption might be right. He doesn't need to put them into words, a single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does it whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amidst the thick tension and frustrated huff, a frustrated huff is the only thing I can summon.
Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself.
No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So, without speaking any further, I simply walk past him and stomp over his car. Although, before I can pull open the door, he calls out, one hand outstretched, a gentle weight on my shoulders.
Wait, Becca.
He pauses, his brows furrowing and lips curving into a slight frown. I can almost see the gears turning in his head, while he tries to piece together everything he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture of honesty will only come out blunt and coarse when forced. But today, for one reason or another, I simply can't summon the forbearance.
Ashton, if you're just going to waste my time again...
Becca, listen. I don't know how else...
That much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on. I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you always do? It's not like...
Rebecca, will you hear me out first?
The silence I can offer him, but whether I'll believe what he's about to say is still up for debate. Very long debate.
I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hannah Wright, and somehow you're friends with her. But you should stay away from these people for now. Especially the husband.
Too late for that, Ashton.
Who? Luke?
His expression deepens into a scowl at the mention of a name. But whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about it has greatly displeased him, evident in the stiff note his tone assumes.
Yeah, he's bad news.
My turn to frown this time. What does he mean by that?
Care to explain your reasons?
I've not meant for it to sound as harsh as it does, but anger and frustration have never been a good match in me. Particularly in nights like this. And it's not surprising when Ashton jerks back as if I've struck him. For a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt darts across his features, his eyes narrowing and hands closing tightly into a fist at his side. And swiftly he glances away and shifts his focus on the line of trees nearby, like an answer can be gleaned from the dark expanse.
I'm really sorry, Becca.
What is it for? For the party? The vague answer he continues to give? Does it include all the times before this, the year's worth of it? I don't doubt its sincerity. However, at the moment, the forgiveness he's asking isn't something I'm all too willing to hand, furious as I am. It's frankly a wonder how I can keep myself from raising my voice at him.
We'll talk about this tomorrow. And you better have a proper answer for me by then.
There's a brief hesitation before I step away, a short moment of wanting to say more, of waiting if he has anything to add. He's only silent, eyes still trained at the distance. The last glimpse I see of him before I climb inside his car. The door slams closed with the same force and anger I'm holding. Its sound merely vanishes into the night unnoticed. He follows soon after, and shortly we're on our way back to the city. Yet even with the city's bright lights welcoming us, the dense, somber air from the mansion still lingers. The moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salem Well. Even after our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself has no idea what to do when he alights and dawdles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an internal debate whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away purely out of spite the second I've gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late and Ashton's flat is on the other side of the city. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him right now, but I'm not too cruel to put him up on another long drive. Especially when he appears as if he hasn't gotten any rest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys to my flat his way before a protest forms on his lips. Although he catches it with ease, he eyes it with a weary expression and shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason, at least in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance when I shove past him, pulling my mobile in the process.
Where are you going? I thought...
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no. Please. Is this that thing Isabella said this morning? Again?
Yep.
I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC crap. No need to drag the old guy into it.
Of course, he's still skeptical. It makes one wonder if he's even seeing anything at all. Figures this curse will stay away from the scoffer. But this is another loose end tonight I can't just leave alone, Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It just so happens that it's the one I can delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion
Ashton?
itself.
Do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No, but this is...
I spent so many years with him to know that this is about to turn into another argument. Before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my
Look,
hand.
I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, growing quiet instead, although I know he has a whole case of it prepared. Prepared inside his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movement when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops, turns to face me with an expression almost too... conflicted?
Are you really sure?
What?
That there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go. And you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Belle gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
I was hoping for a long conversation so I could eat some shit. The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered as he disappears behind the stairs. If things weren't as strained, he might have a quip or two about that, followed by light banter. Instead, for a long moment, I'm left staring at him. Something in the way he asked it that nags. Coupled with his expression, the whole exchange just feels unsettling. While it does not phase, even as I gather my thoughts and shift my focus on another, even as I dial Professor Andrew's number. And that's when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerges from the unease. Ashler's not intended for his question to be a jibe. It's concern. For what, though? For my well-being? The letter's curse? The woman I mentioned? The answer for those will have to wait, however. Finally, the call connects and Professor Andrew's voice echoes from the receiver.
Professor Andrew?
Rebecca? It's late. What can I do for you?
I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent.
After all, this is a more pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake if we're still in the dark.
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favor. ...
We don't even get to find out what that favor is. Wait. Oh no, yeah, this happens before the party. Yeah. So Marianne gets taken before the party. Professor Andrew has agreed to meet with me 2 days later in front of Luxbourne's public library. He has other commitments, but being a long-time family friend has its perks. I have my parents' connections to thank for that. Of course, I'm not the sort to impose on him often, but the situation is... well, it's not entirely bad. Although it does require calling in a few favours from friends like him. Without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library's restricted section. If I want to get more in-depth information on the Ermengarde mansion, that is, not simply what they choose to show to the general public. As much as I hate to admit it, there's always something people censor, and whatever it is, I won't ever find it in the general section. It has to be what they're keeping here, beyond the public eye. Thought of that alone makes me antsy. Thankfully, I don't have to brood over it. The wait for the professor doesn't last long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he dislikes people who are tardy. He arrives 5 minutes after I do, greets me with that kind smile and casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in so long, but it appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough for a fond smile to spread across my face.
Professor Andrew.
Rebecca, didn't I say long ago you can drop the professor?
Old habits.
You know I can't possibly do that. Even if I can, it feels disrespectful to call you by your name alone.
Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man. Kids these days.
All right, but just for today, since you're doing me a huge favor, Andrew.
I guess you simply can't have it all, even at this old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit.
Yes, sir, if that's okay with you.
More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say.
He hands me the permit without further prompting. And just like he promised, he's also written a recommendation after his signature. It's more than enough to get me those files. I mutter a small thanks before slipping it into my pocket, although when I look back up, his brows are furrowed, the very face of curiosity. Not surprising considering how vague I've been during our little talk over the phone. Right there and then I've decided to tell him whatever he asks, but not all of it, but stuff he needs to know. It's the least I can do to thank him. As expected, true to his inquisitive nature, he asks.
If you don't mind, though, I know you've always been an eager learner, but may I know what in the restricted section that piqued your curiosity?
It's the Ermengarde mansion, sir.
The Ermengarde mansion. He's quick to raise an eyebrow at that, and for a while I fear he'll take the slip of paper back. Is there something in what I said?
The ones they have out in the general isn't enough?
I'm, hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that.
Oh, I see. Well, You certainly aren't the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about. Why, just this past week, I've got a few asking me about that.
I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree. The mansion is beautiful, even with the renovations. They kept the stained glass windows, too. They are magnificent.
Oh, you've seen it.
I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but they couldn't make it. My mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans. Hannah Wright?
Ah, I know of her. Her husband, too. Who doesn't?
Ooh, that's a stern look on his face.
Luxborn's most popular couple.
Something falls behind his eyes, the warmth in them suddenly gone, like he's reliving a painful distant memory and seeing it play out right in front of him. It disappears almost as soon as it surfaces, but that look has unsettled something in me.
Is something the matter?
Nothing much. But you know, you're already like a daughter to me. So if you could, do be careful with the friends you make.
Is this about the right, sir?
Just a friendly advice from an old man. Don't think much about it. Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws. Say hi to your parents at the detective inspector for me, will you? I wish you luck with all that research.
I will. Thanks for this, Andrew.
Andrew gives my shoulder a light squeeze, the gesture a younger me has always appreciated, and quickly crosses the street after. I watch him until he disappears behind the door of the cafe, until the doubt swimming inside my head finds a moment to rest. Whatever his business is with the rights, it isn't something I should concern myself about. But somehow in the grand scheme of things now, all of it feels oddly relevant. How, though, I have yet to find out. And I'm hoping the library will give me the answers I want this time. On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty. The second floor in particular. I've always considered this place to be a sanctuary, a respite away from the hubbub of the city. As a child, I grew up reading books here, spending hours here to no end poring over the pages, living out fantasies in my head until my parents called me home. Now it feels nothing like it. The silence is smothering, suffocating. Even with how clean they keep the microfiche room, how the entire small of it lacks a speck of dust or clutter, how the entire small of it. Okay, breathing is a struggle for air. Not far into my stay, I begin to long for the noise outside, and perhaps as a way to calm this unease, I start to hum a tune. Imagine that. Why of all things it has to be that silly nursery rhyme, I have not an inkling. It's because of Kylie. Does its job, however, it fills the lull with something far less awkward, far less deafening. And that is enough for a distraction. I have business here. No time for silly daydreams, only important work to attend to. Even if there's a possibility of it being fruitless. By some means, it feels like I have to do it. If not for me, then for the people who have been affected by this. What do we even call this? A haunting? A Halloween prank gone wrong? A curse? If Isabella were here, what would she say? Will she panic? Will she be angry I only listen to her now? It all stems from that one moment in the movie house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this if we had had we only taken her warnings to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal lives on a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself or at the universe for throwing us into this mess. But we can only make do with what little we have, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start.
A good start.
It doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. A microfiche of old newspapers, long kept in special storage cabinets at the far end of the restricted section. The year is 1620s and beyond. So that's what? 7 generations back on an average lifetime. Because that's 4 centuries. 5 or 6 generations back. Before the city of Luxbourne even exists in the records, where the mansion has just been built, and Anselm is nothing more than a small sleepy hamlet near a river. A lot of pieces are missing, days, sometimes several consecutive weeks without any record remaining. Often it goes on for years. Troublesome, but as it is, I'm lucky enough to find anything at all considering how far I'm looking back. Can't be picky now. Can't waste time mulling over what record keepers of the old could have done to make this a breeze for me.
I can still work with this.
The faint whir of the microfiche machine keeps me company as I go over each slide, each image hoping for something that goes beyond what the local law knows. There are snippets, little mentions of the family that once settled in the house here and there. Usual singing of praises of the couple who helped brought up what was once a tiny settlement into a buzzing town. Nothing substantial, nothing I didn't know before. It continues on like this for a good while. Until I come by the year after their deaths. The people of Anselm might have loved Lord William, so it's William Ermengarde and Lady Elizabeth. Oh wait, no, because it's Charlotte Ermengarde, the last owner. Mourned their passing and held them in high esteem years after. But it was their daughter that was remembered fondly by the townspeople. If her parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was the one who made it prosper. There we go. Remarkable considering how it was a period of recovery from a bout of plague that killed half the town's population, including her parents. What's surprising though? Yeah. Oh. So it was slave trade. Apparently her time also marked more than superficial changes to the place. Removed things, changed laws, altered all customs and traditions. So that's clearly Charlotte. That's got to be the ghoul. They were done on a woman's whimsy, it doesn't say, but she seems capable enough for more than that. The gist of it is, the town she built, it's what eventually grew to become Luxbourne City, while the nearby Anselm village remained what it was, a relic of the old. A frown swiftly forms on my face.
So, why is there a need to hide this?
One by one I try to recall every lesson I've gone through, every book, paper and journal I've read. None of those ever mention this. It's always the lord and lady of the house, their endearing children, always an afterthought to those anecdotes. The one who always took her life in the end. Never someone who restored a town from the brink of collapse and brought new ideas to it. Is it because she's a woman?
That pisses me off.
Granted, not everything is sunshine and rainbows, not all aspects of it can be considered admirable, but this is history. Some parts are bound to naturally delve into unpleasant territory, whether I like it or not. Witch hunts, for example, became common at the end, near the end of this. So that's Charlotte again. So this is where we see the whole she's a witch thing. Which would have been a completely unremarkable and might not have gone to become a mere footnote of history if not for the involvement of Lady Charlotte and the very slave she saved. Caused quite a stir, even enough to leave almost a week's worth of clippings. The girl was eventually burned, condemned by an entire town at the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But this doesn't really have anything to do with this curse, does it? Unless the woman following us and the slave are the same person. Tale of revenge? How cliché. However, the lack of accurate photographs, it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint, the illustration would start resembling her. But in my field, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work this way. I'll be the laughingstock of the community.
This isn't going anywhere.
Mentally exhausted, I carefully step away from the screen, pressing a palm to my tired eyes. The lack of ample light in this area doesn't help. A headache already threatens to form at the base of my head, yet I'm nowhere near figuring this out. It's simply too much to take in all at once.
I should have asked for someone's help.
Now I'm at a dead end. I start gathering everything around me and placing them back in the respective envelopes for storage. The motion no longer new after volunteering here a number of times. I didn't make much mess anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with. I'll have to look somewhere else. The where remains unknown though. But just as I'm about to slip the last slides in, something catches my attention. My hand pauses on the microfiche halfway through a protective sleeve. This is one of the few I've set aside without taking a careful look at. It seems like a gossip column at first glance, but upon closer look, I slide it back to the reader, gently turning the dials in search of the page. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear, they must have had this drawing commissioned for this announcement. I don't doubt it. The details are far more intricate, their likeness likely close to how they might have appeared at the time. They're both recognisable in this way, closer to those paintings I've seen in the mansion. Yeah. However, it's the man standing beside her, Edward Godfrey. According to the article, that caught my attention previously. Her first cousin, and eventually her fiancé. What was his name? Edward Godfrey. Maybe it's the posture, the manner he holds himself, or maybe it's the shape of his eyes, though I can't be too certain until I've gotten a better reference. Nevertheless, there is a resemblance. He looks eerily like Luke. My head snaps up, glowering at whoever's running on the floor above. Any day I'd march up and reprimand whoever it is.
This is a library, for heaven's sake.
But now isn't the time. I've gotten what I need. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine's print button for a copy of the page, while my other hand moves to put everything back into storage. A ragged exhale slips from me. Relief, perhaps? Or maybe this is already exhaustion. Regardless, soon I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish, if only to stave off the headache building up from everything. Sometime I've even began humming the same song again in comfort. Despite my doubts about this, despite all the tension in my shoulders, this may be a small find, but at least I can start somewhere. We can start somewhere. There's a way out of this. I know it. The printer sputters to a halt. However, its sound isn't what makes me snap my eyes open. This better not be Kylie. A chilly brush of air against my back. Brief enough for something sickening to suddenly lodge itself in my throat while I take in my surroundings. It's that suffocating sensation again. Creeping up to every part of me, crawling under my skin. These wounds, they will not heal. Fear is not my fault. Confusing what is real. Linkin Park. Burying me little by little of any strength. From that day in the mansion, from that brief moment at the school. I love this music. Without a delay, I grab the papers and make a quick beeline for the door. Hi! My whole body freezes.
What are you doing, Miss Pink?
I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For a little while, only the sound of papers crumpling under my grasp fills the room. The excitement from earlier gone instantly, replaced by a cold, seeping dread spreading throughout my limbs. More than the fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her use my own student's voice against me, and more than once I believed it was really her. She has no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, if there isn't a wall behind me, I'll probably take a step back. If there isn't a wall behind me, I'll probably take a step back. Anything to put a distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But as I steel myself, because if I do fall back, turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I'm not dying here.
You think you scare me?
Hi, sensitive.
Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting.
No.
I'm not afraid of you, you spook.
Yes, you spook.
This is one Scotswoman you aren't getting into an early grave without a fight! Come at me!
Come at me! So imposing, Rebecca. I expected she'll lunge, prove to me what a monster she is. Instead, all she gives is a smile, twisted and gnarled. It's as if time has crawled to a stop at the sight of it. A split-second decision, and before I know it, my body shifts. Eyes closing in anticipation, hands grabbing whatever's solid on the nearby table and hurling at her. I don't bother looking if whatever I threw hit its mark. I run, as fast as my legs can carry me, despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. But in this maze of bookshelves, with the whole place almost void of people, is there even a place safe enough that I can escape to? Horror Movie 101. 101, you never, ever, ever go deeper into the fucking building. Never go deeper into this building. You head for that door, you run, and you get the hell out of here. Head for the door. There's one. If there's one, it's out of this room, out of this place, as far as anyone can get from her. I can think about the rest of what I can do after I'm outside, when there are other people I can ask for help. When she's not chasing after me like this. There's no hesitation in my steps as I race for the restricted section's door, head downstairs and barrel straight to the library's exit, towards safety in a desperate bid for my life. Library rules be damned. I can no longer hear her behind me, but I'm not taking any chances. A breath almost escapes me as I near the door, a little more. When out of nowhere, a library cart careens from a blind corner and slams at my sides. My back hits the floor with a hard thud, the impact completely knocking the breath out of me. The copper tang of blood, iron tang of blood, gradually spreads over my tongue and I fight to get my bearings back. I force myself to move, even with the excruciating pain coursing through my limbs. The exit's almost there, if only I can. There's no moment's respite. The next thing I know, there's a heavy weight atop of me and the cold digits slide around my neck. Twist tight like a vice, closing in, leaving me gasping for air. Through my blurred vision, I can only make out the hateful gleam, the spite in her eyes as she looms over my body and her grip over my throat grows tighter. Desperation kicks in. My nails dig into her wrist as soon as I struggle. And as I struggle against her firm grip, trying to pry her fingers away.
Let go.
Incoming QTE.
Let me go.
What? Keep the slider within the green bar by moving the mouse's arrow direction. Oh! Did she just smack her in the head with a book? I don't think twice. My limbs are moving on their own before what I did can fully register in my brain and my lungs could recover. Behind me, she lets out a cry sharp and loud and thunderous against the empty walls of the library. With the fear her wails bring compares nothing to the relief washing over me when I finally make it outside. My knees buckle as soon as I get to my feet. As soon as my feet hit the pavement, its cold surface hard against my skin. Jesus Christ. Interesting note though. Now we know we can fight against her. Now we know she can be hit by stuff. We can finally fight back. I've only been there a few hours, 1 or 2 probably. I don't know anymore. It feels like an eternity all the same. My breathing hasn't slowed down yet, and I don't expect it to after going through that. I'll probably look the most undignified creature on a Sunday morning right now, out of breath, dishevelled, slumped here with a bloodied lip and all. But at present, I simply can't bring myself to care, even when a few passers-by start giving me strange looks. Stare at me all you want, I couldn't give a single shite. I'm alive. I'm safe. This isn't the end yet, but I'm safe. And inside my bag is something that could get us out of this mess. Nothing definite yet. I don't want to get my hopes up, but it's still something. If Isabella is here, I'm sure she'll feel the same. She'll even be the first one who'll put a faith on it. Wherever this leads us, it's a victory on its own. I don't like this music. I don't like this music being here. Now all that's left is find the others, the rest of us trapped in this bloody nightmare. Ryan Q, as if an answer to my previous thoughts. My mobile phone lets out a beep. I pick it up, simply hoping it'll be one of them. Only it's a voicemail that greets me. From Ashton. There's a pang of disappointment, of course, but it brings some reassurance that nothing's happened to at least one of them.
Hey, Becca, call me back when you're free. We need to talk. ASAP.
He ends it right there. The message less than a minute long, curt, and gives nothing away. I let it ease my worries regardless, and do as he asks. Because this, too, is another triumph for us. One less thing to worry about. We're going to end it there. We don't actually get to see from her point of view what revelations they get from the fact that she's found out that, as what we already previously knew, that the thing tormenting us could have a relation to what happened with Charlotte Ermengarde all those years ago when she freed a slave. I thought she freed her from being a witch. She freed her from being a slave and then burnt her for being a witch. Although at least someone's now put a, as Rebecca said, that there's an uncanny resemblance between Luke Wright and Edward Godfrey. I think I'm going to stick to my old assumption. But it's obviously going to have to change a little bit. But I think the slave that she freed, she must have got into her service and then seduced Edward Godfrey. I reckon they had a child. That child then later became a member of the Wright family, which then the Wright family several generations later gave birth to Luke Wright, who then married Hannah Evans, who are now the owners of the mansion. And the reason why she's attacking is because they have such a resemblance to the old family. But she's attacking Hannah because she looks like the previous owner, Charlotte. But she's also not attacking Luke. There's been no mention anywhere that this thing has attacked Luke. And from one of the last images from the party scene on Rebecca's storyline, you see that it was kind of draped over him. Usually it looks as if it's going straight for the throat, or it's kind of looming behind, looking like it's grabbing for the throat. It looks as if it's trying to harm whoever it's going for. But when it was against Luke, you could see that one arm was going across like that, and the other arm was going around his, like, coming from underneath his arm around his waist. That's almost like a lover's embrace. That's almost how you'd hold someone who's in discomfort, who you were close to. I've done it numerous times in relationships. I've seen numerous people in relationships use the exact same thing. They hold the person near and dear to them, close to them, holding them against themselves. So there's no way that this ghoul was looking to attack Luke. And it could be the reason why it's gone so intently against Marianne is because Marianne almost slept with him. Although the whole Marianne story kind of makes me think that this thing is just attacking because Marianne was lying. She was lying that she ever had feelings towards another woman because of she was in a religious school in Ireland. If you came out as gay in a religious school in Ireland, you are going to be battered black and blue. Like a very, especially the school as they described was run by nuns. It's a heavily religious thing, and the Irish are predominantly Catholic, and Catholics do not look kindly upon someone who has an attraction to the same sex. And that eventually led to the death of the woman that she actually did love during school. And the ghoul took on her appearance. It's weird, it seems like